Hi there, and welcome to today's jazz guitar lesson. In today's lesson, I'd like to teach you how to play a really cool scale on guitar called a bebop scale. Now, there are many different bebop scales in which you can learn, but for the purposes of today's lesson, we're just going to be looking at one, which is the dominant bebop scale. If you'd like to get the tab and notation for this lick, if you look below this video, you will see a link to an article on my website, which is a really in-depth explanation to what bebop scales are and how they work. Now, there's various different kinds of bebop scales. There's a dominant bebop scale, which we're going to be looking at in this lesson, a major bebop scale, a minor bebop scale, and a few more as well. But before we look at the other ones, we're going to be looking at only the dominant bebop scale in this lesson. I'm going to show you how and why it works, how it can be applied over a dominant 7th chord, and some really cool patterns that are really commonly used by jazz musicians. So let's go to some zoomed in shots and learn how to play a dominant bebop scale. For the purpose of today's lesson, we're going to be learning the dominant bebop scale in the key of G. Now, when you normally learn a scale on guitar, such as a major scale or a Mixolydian scale or a Dorian scale, there tend to be 7 notes. And the interesting thing about bebop scales is that they're usually 8 notes, and certainly the most common types of bebop scales are 8 notes. Now, the dominant bebop scale is actually very similar to the Mixolydian scale, except it's got one note added in, which is not in a Mixolydian scale. So if we just refresh what a G Mixolydian scale is for a minute, it's G, A, B, C, D, E, F. 7 notes. If we want to turn this into a dominant bebop scale, we need to add one more note, and the note which we add is an F sharp note. So if we do the Mixolydian scale up again, we'll turn it into a bebop scale at the last minute by adding this new note F sharp. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F, F sharp. And now when you play bebop scales, it's really common to actually hit the octave again because of how they work rhythmically, which I'll explain more about in just a minute. So if we play this 1 octave bebop scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, F sharp, G, and as you can hear, it's got a really nice sound to it just out of the box. And just for a technical standpoint, this scale, or this fingering, which is in terms of finger numbers, it's 2nd finger, 4th, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, can be moved to different string sets of the guitar, which is really useful. For example, that same fingering can be applied to the 5th string. Find the G there. That's really useful to be able to have it. In 2 positions without learning anything new, and in fact you can actually apply it to the D string as well. You kind of have to shift up to accommodate for the tuning, but that straight away gives you 3 different fingerings for this scale, which is really useful because you need to be able to find it in different parts of the neck when you're using it in your improvisation. So basically, if you've been playing jazz before, you might be getting a bit confused by this point because you're saying I'm saying this is a dominant scale, and you can play it over dominant chords, but it's got an F sharp in, and if I just play a dominant 7th chord and then an F sharp, it's got a bit of a funny sound to it really, so that might be confusing you, especially if you're new to jazz and you're used to targeting chord tones and things like that. So the reason this works, this entire bebop scale idea works, is because it's a rhythmic concept, a rhythmic idea. And when you're playing this F sharp in the time signature of 4/4 and you're playing this scale in 8th notes, you always get the F sharp on the upbeat of the bar. So if I just count that in a 4/4, go a 1 and play it in 8th notes, a 1, 2, 3, 4. You can hear there it sounded a lot better than just hanging on to it against a G7 chord. So that's kind of how it works. Usually these passing tones, you can use them on the upbeats of the bar and they won't clash with chords if they're used in the right way. But that's another concept for another day, really, chromatic approach notes. But that's the basic crux of the bebop scale. When I use this scale in improvisation, I actually very rarely use the full scale. In fact, most of the time I actually only use the top few notes of this scale. And there's one really cool bebop scale pattern that every guitarist needs to know, and it sounds like this. And you've probably heard that before if you've listened to bebop. And it's not too tricky to play. Basically, it works. It has two really cool uses. You can play it over a static G7 chord, starts on the root, then goes down to the major 7th, then it goes to the flat 7th, then it goes back to the root again, then it goes to the 6th, E natural, and then you can go to the C if you want. So slowly that's... And again, these are all 8th notes, so the F sharp is on the upbeat of the bar. Now that can work over a static G7 chord, but because you're resolving, you're putting all this pressure on with that F sharp, all this tension on the chord, and this is 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can use this really in like a short 2-5, for example, half a bar of D minor, half a bar of G7 to C, these 4 notes, and then resolve to E in the next bar. So if I play that in time, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, like that. So that's one way in which you can use a bebop scale right out of the shed. Got a really nice sense of tension and resolution, that little pattern. So that's one way you can use it, but obviously sometimes you need to find more notes. So when I practice scale, what I like to do is I like to combine it with things like Coltrane patterns, and now I've got a different video about that. If you don't know what Coltrane patterns are, tetrachords, 1, 2, 3, 5 patterns, just go on my channel and you can check that video out. So just what I might do, like for example, is if I'm playing over a short 2-5 in C, half a bar of D minor, half a bar of G, half a bar of C, I might start to combine these patterns with things like a descending 1, 2, 3, 5 pattern. So over the D minor 7, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 5. So I might do that descending, and then I might go to a bebop scale idea. And of course I could always play that 1, 2, 3, 5 pattern ascending. Oops. And then you've got two different lines with just a slight variation. Or I could do... So that's just two ways you can use it straight out of the bat. Besides practicing bebop scales in the way which we just talked about, which was by combining them with other 4-note harmonic devices such as arpeggios and 1, 2, 3, 5 patterns, you could simply take a 2-5-1 line which you already know and amend it so that a bebop scale finishes it off before it resolves. So say if the line was something like this. It's a nice little 2-5-1 line. You can actually just change the end of that line with a bebop scale, like that. And of course I don't know which 2-5-1 lines you know, but that's a really worthwhile thing because now I have two different ways of playing that 2-5-1 line. And really that's two lines just by changing the ending of the lick, which is really cool because I'm kind of lazy. I don't like to learn 500 2-5-1 lines. I might have about 20 2-5-1 lines which I can adapt on the fly like that, which is really useful to me. So another way in which you can change the line as well, say if I take my new 2-5-1 line, I'll show you this 2-5-1 line because it's quite nice. It's over a 2-5-1 in C, starting on the E, and then I'm going to the F and then back to the E with a triplet. And then I'm going C sharp, D, then after I've hit the C sharp of the D, I'm going up the Dorian scale. But I'm not playing the B this time, I'm just going straight to the C. So I've got my triplet, C sharp, D, E, F, G, A, C. That's the start of the lick. And then do my bebop scale pattern up here. And I like to slide into the third, the E natural, just to give it kind of more of a bluesy quality. Thanks for checking out today's YouTube jazz guitar lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please click the like button below and subscribe to this channel for free jazz and blues guitar lessons. See you in the next lesson.